Good morning, Ms. Abby Z. Abby, what are your pronouns?
There's she, her. I think I
Okay.
updated them. Yeah. She, her, hers.
Yes. Okay. Well, it's really good to be speaking to you. I understand you're somewhere in the Midwest. Is that right? Right
I'm
now?
currently in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
What's happening? What are you doing there?
So, man, since we spoke last, my life has done several 180s, as has the world and many things. I think we spoke in like January 2020.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm currently um, I'm going to start as an associate professor at Ohio State University in the fall. I was a
Hmm.
guest there this semester, but I've also been in residency at the Wexner Center because they have been instrumental to helping rebuild a work since,
Mm.
a lot has changed since we spoke.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
That was
and the
going to
work,
be my first
well, of
question.
course, right.
That was going to be my first question. Uh, how has your practice changed? How has the work that you're bringing to us changed? And in general, how has your approach to the art world changed, or the
Yeah.
world?
Yeah. I mean, there have been logistical things that were, I never lived in New York City, but for a while, most of my dancers were based there. So in rehearsing for, and I've come to think of radioactive practice, maybe not so much as just one piece, but like a period of time in my art making, in my dance making is kind of what it's coming out as. But I used to fly in almost every weekend from Illinois because I was a professor at the University of Illinois. So I would be in and out. And obviously, with like New York State and New York City having these like quarantine, like that wasn't a possibility for a long time.
Mhm.
Thinking about because once the initial premiere paused, we didn't really know how to go forward. It was a little back, everything, a little back, a little forward.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so I've had to work structurally in different ways, like working for longer pockets of time versus, okay, consistency of every weekend, working in these like kind of longer shots, which also limited some of the people who could be involved in the work. So the cast has had to shift. Um,
Mm.
I mean, I'm telling you logistical things, and then I can get to more of the philosophical things. I guess for everybody, and for me, it really kind of bubbled up was like, what, and this isn't regarding people, but it's like, what about the work can be let go of, but have it still be what it is? Like, what do I have to kind of like, because I can have an insistency and an obsession over some things, a micromanagement of things in the past and trying to understand things. And so really a moment of finding space, because for a while we were building, like trying to maintain an old piece or an older work, and then transitioning to, okay, well, this is just going to have to be a new piece. And this is going to, uh, have to, I'm sorry, I also had a baby. This is the
Oh,
last time I talked, so I'm like, I hear
wow.
him. So yeah, he's almost one. Um, so yeah, so throughout all this, okay, what can I let go of in order to move forward? Because that was a factor too in terms of space. Oh, because we were building without a definite plan, like building a work without like, I don't know, we lost some shows, we gained some like we're building without sort of a deadline or an end date, because
Mhm.
we had several reschedules with New York Live Arts when it came to like, okay, what is the premiere? And so that kind of finding more space, but also what was important, like what couldn't I shake about the work, and
Mm.
what did finding more space allow for the dancers to bring into the room, or allow me to see what the dancers were bringing into the room differently.
Well, that's great. No, just for a moment, could you tell our listeners exactly what they should expect? What's the name, the new book, or the new work? Well, the new old work. Is it the
The
new
new
old
old
work?
work, it's
Is
still radioactive practice. And they should expect, there's 6 dancers. There is a, from my perspective, there is like a softness or a sentimentality in it, but from an outsider, probably not. But from people who already know my work, they could see sort of the shifts that have happened according to, I don't know, like becoming a mom and, all these horrors that have happened so publicly in the world, and have affected so many people. Like, I got off easy. The fact that my premiere had to, I didn't lose anybody to COVID. I feel like I got off easy by just having, years of work derailed, essentially.
Mm.
So, and people have been, I feel like you guys have been amazing. I haven't answered your question yet. You've been giving me support, but what people should expect, there is the people in the work, because it was such a, I think everybody making dance right now knows this, because it has been such a tedious sort of soul-sucking process just to kind of jump all the hurdles to maintain protocol and be safe. The people in the room want to be there so badly. There is like a whole new investment. Like, there is like body, mind, and soul with these 6 people, and it's a longer piece than I've made. It's actually turned out to be a little over an hour, and there's less people. So you'll be seeing, I hate to say, like, I don't want to immediately go into words that describe what one might call the spectacle of it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's full throttle physicality. There is, there's driving rhythm. There's perplexing movement patterns.
And
That,
as a rule,
yeah.
you don't use it's in silence for the most part, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a choice. That's a choice you make consistently in radioactive practice.
Yeah, as a maker, it's a choice that I've made consistently, and I think that comes from wanting the body to talk in a specific way and insisting on all the dimensions coming out and not be, it's almost like, I feel like the body is doing what music has the capacity to do inside the work, in terms,
how do you mean?
Well, kind of really drawing out, I want it to be responsible for drawing out all these emotional and psychological overtones and undertones, and sort of like how is there narrative quality inside of these like rigorous, robust rhythmic tasks? Like, I find my work really narrative. But again, it's like, I can't get away from knowing the people.
How do you mean narrative in that way? I mean, when I see your work, I participate as an audience, almost like watching a sporting event.
Yeah.
Now there is narrative and there's drama in sports. Yeah. Is that what you're talking about? That
is a point also what I'm talking about, because there is this, I want you to sit with these people, and in a way that's not camouflaging or in a way kind of pushing the work into too much of a conventional or known or familiar dance space. Because the work is so kind of physical, when it's done to music, it takes on a different kind of like, I don't know, for me, the work is flat when, because I haven't found the way to work with music in that. Because again, like, it camouflages like the drama and the narrative that you're talking about. Because I think like watching the playoffs right now and the basketball, it's like, yeah, I am watching the like, I'm going for the emotional ride with the athletes, and I have an investment in them, because it's like, I follow my teams, I know those people, and I am kind of invested in their whole, their whole lives in a way. And
however, they are an indeterminate structure. There is a sensibility, a personality who is making choices how she wants this evening to ride. There's a point of beginning and there's a point of ending. So it's different than athletics in that way.
Yes.
So there's something that the creator is driving at.
Yeah. There is a I mean, there's no team, there's no opponent in this. It's really kind of overcoming sort of these own, your own kind of obstacles, or these lines that you've kind of, or borders you've created for yourself, in terms of like what you think you're capable of, or figuring out. I think this is where it comes back to like the people in the room, because I've been able to work in a different way. We worked really for long periods in the fall at the Wexner Center in Columbus. Really walking around and living inside of physicality in a way that wasn't about getting it right, but really pushing like the function of the movement in terms of like, okay, what is this arsenal that I'm coming with, in terms of my own physical capacity as a mover, because of all these things that have shaped me, all of, if speaking from a dancer's perspective, like they're coming with whatever you want to call it, technical training, but they're also coming with, it's not just the technical training that informs how they approach the work. There are these like, how have your senses, like your sense of what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're, how you're creating a narrative for your, like, for yourself emerging in the piece, because not everybody is coming from the same understanding of like task-based work and kind of a postmodernist, if you want to call it that, approach to sort of structuring.
Well, see, I see you as you are for me one of the clearest pure strains from, if I can use the term, classical postmodern procedure. It truly is work that seems to be, it's not, I would never have used the word, it doesn't seem to be interested in narrative or psychology. You've just said that you think you're interested in both those things.
Yeah.
And it is, you're coming to, if I was taking a novice to see your work, I would say, you're going to go and see a group of people working out a series of problems: gravity, time, space. So that's pretty classically postmodern, don't you think?
Yeah. And at the same time, how you're describing the words you're using have never been words or a practice or a teaching or a pedagogical space in terms of understanding what I do. I've never been in a room where anybody would have described what I'm doing as that. So I think that again comes through these like different like veils or of information and associations that people have when they see the moving body and when they understand dance. Like there is this, like for me, I think there's this sense of we're working out problems because the work has to be done. And I know that that's like, well, duh, but like, why does the work have to be done? And why would people opt in to do this work? And it's people who are, who come from, a lot of it does have to come from a more working class upbringing and a sense of, like, I know you're describing what I'm doing in a dance and a dance history terminology, way that you're doing it really succinctly, but it's a far messier path to
so it's political. It's political now. We've just shifted to politics. And this is something
but I don't know if
just for a moment, let me antagonize you a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought, in seeing your work, I thought this is classic post second wave feminist work. There's something that's a question for you. The works that I have seen, for the most part, the persons are women. There are usually one, maybe two men, and now you have six people. They have been, there is something about it that has, and the way people are shouting and encouraging each other, it's almost like you asking people, show your power, crack through something. So that to me seems to be, you have an axe to grind. So take me on. What do you think about that?
I mean, who doesn't have an axe to grind?
Oh, I don't think everyone does.
Yeah.
Some people, particularly in the world of dance, dance is a place that people go to escape. You see a person flying, people want to Dancers are supposed to be trained to help us slip the bonds of gravity. They're supposed to be able, in certain traditions, not supposed to, certain traditions, they're taking us to fantasy spaces of complete possibility, glamour, beauty, all of those things. I think that you seem to be saying, fuck you, and you're flying at it. Well, is that not true?
Well, I think at a time I would have said fuck you to those spaces, but I feel like I have come to try to make a space where it makes sense for me to exist. And I think that, and the people in the work to come and exist fully as they are, and not kind of step into these, I don't know, roles that are, void of the realities that we live in. I mean, we live in a mess. We live in a fucking mess. And the work has to, it's the daily grind is grueling. And this isn't glamorizing that. This is just showing what, I think there's something utopic or ideal about what it is that I'm showing, that it's not solely about, I mean, I think that there's a little sort of like double entendre, or it's speaking out of both sides of its mouth, because I think that it'll always have that kind of punk, kind of axe to grind. But I think that we are moving in a direction in dance where what I'm doing is not to say that it's not so different from what a lot of people want to be doing or identify with, because I think a lot of people identify with the space that I'm creating with the work. And I don't know if it is, I'm not here to sort of replace. I think I'm still getting caught up on this sense, and I'm trying to find my grounding in sort of like you finding sort of a classical the classical characteristics in what it is that I'm doing. The
classical characteristics mean what we recognize as being the postmodern revolution, which said no to many things, and as a result, it was saying yes to other things. But just for a moment, what about gender in it?
Well, this iteration has 3 male presenting bodies, 3 female presenting bodies. So, the dance field forever has been more highly populated by females than males. And so I also identify as being a woman, and have wanted to support other women in the field, upcoming dancers who identify with the work. So right now, with the kind of half and half split, a lot of sort of like logistics were worked out in terms of, okay, these are the people that can commit and want to do the work, and it's going to work. So I can't say that what you felt in terms of like because I didn't even bring up, because I tend not to speak through sort of I guess terms using, feminism, or I want to approach it. I don't want to tell people the end point. It's like, how can I show people? And then if they see it, cool. If they don't, then I didn't do my job.
I hear you. And the reason that we're doing this sofa talk, we call it, is because all you and I have is language. Because there are many more people who will probably hear you talking about the work than who see it. So I don't mean to saddle you with anything. So no. Just for a moment, it maybe if I talked more specifically to you about how a work gets made. Do you come into the studio with material that everyone learns, or do people generate material in the room at your prompts? And do you give prompts? How do you get started in a work?
It's both. I had, in the remaking of this work, I was like, very pregnant and working in my basement here in Columbus, making solos with two of the dancers, Jen and Ben. So in kind of trying to the start of remaking or making a work for that would eventually be this work that's going to premiere, was kind of getting back into that more intimate one-on-one, trying to just solve the most inane and like tedious and detailed problems of like moving the body in a particular way. And
could you give me an example what that might
okay,
be?
So it's like pushing the pelvis forward off of the back leg, but making sure you're tracking and sensing the full weight of the stacked body over the center of your body, but not with so much resistance that you're blocking energetic flow, and literally repeating this 1 second of motion for a few hours on end. You know, that, and this was something that I feel like in remaking this piece, I was going back to how I started making when I started the company, which was with two women. And actually it was in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm kind of coming full circle in that way, that because there was no deadline, because we did not know when the work was going to premiere, and because I was so very like 8-9 months pregnant at the time, working in the basement with these dancers,
Mm-hmm.
kind of finding this, it reminded me of like, okay, you know, what is enough? Like what is enough, and what does kind of limiting in terms of physicality? And I guess it is saying, it is speaking to directly kind of how you described postmodernism. But again, that's really not necessarily a lineage or training that I come from. So these are all things that it's almost like happenstance. And so like I've come to it through a different means, but sure, like that label fits, you know?
Yes. Okay, but now you described this arduous process,
Yeah.
kind of obsessive process.
Yeah.
Do you videotape every day? How do you go
Um,
back? In other words, how do you go back? How do you depending on the memories of the performers, or do you sit in your room and decide I want this, this, and this, or how does it done?
it's internalized and it's more rhythmic and it's more in the moment. And I think like there's a real rhythm of, you know, the space that we're rehearsing in. There were sort of limits that we wanted to push to the edges of working in my basement. And okay, so this is where it comes really, like if we're looking at the full arc of a work or how the movement comes to function, how sections are built, there is a rhythmic development that is deeply connected to my first training was in tap, and that was my true love, like hoofing, like that kind of like rhythmic talking and storytelling, and again that being connected to more African diasporic forms that I have trained in. And so there's this sense of like the rhythm comes, like we'll be working on mechanics and like understanding kind of how the body operates, and then this sense of like kind of hearing how the rhythm will unfold, or a composing of how the rhythm will unfold, and trying to place some of these approaches to the body inside of that.
How do you remember it from day to day? How is it recorded so that, for instance, a dancer gets injured and you have to replace the dancer? How is that done?
If there is something, if it's just like these little kind of like blurbs of like, you know, 2 or 3 movements and it's not that far along yet, we're not going to record it, because these are all things, this is all stuff that I'm internalizing and obsessing over, like chewing on in the back of my brain while I'm engaging in the world in all these other ways. When something becomes a bit more developed, then yeah, we will go to document it, and if necessary, I mean, and not just in the case of you know, if somebody was injured or something happened, but in the case of, okay, to track it, because the dancers need to kind of early on come face to face with, okay, how does it feel, and then how does it register from the outside. So kind of looking at there's a lot of slow-mo videos that dancers will take of themselves to understand, actually it doesn't feel like that, but this thing is continuously happening in my body, and I just want to figure out how to move that a little bit, and approach it in a different way. So there is they're on board, and there's ownership on their part from the beginning. So it's like this, and should a dancer, I've never had a dancer be, oh, I guess she's not dancing, she's not in this iteration, but I had an apprentice, she had gotten injured. So she this was years ago, 2020 feels so far away. That people will often be involved in bringing in new people, and kind of having that, trying to, even though we have to kind of speed it along, like how do you speed along this kind of trajectory that is both physical and it's psychological. The training process is where sort of the psychology of it is like, how do you build an interior dialogue that allows you to do something on repeat? How do you bring
an interior dialogue? Have you told them that this is an idea and this is an idea, and these two ideas are speaking to each other? The people take those two ideas into their body, and they are actually actualizing their internal dialogue. That's what you mean?
Well, I think, yeah, that does come out, but that is not something that I coach or force. We will kind of, again, like I can't front load what's going to happen at the end. It is truly an experiment in that way, because each dancer is different in terms of how they, again, this is where it comes from, like having, any kind of, we all come with emotional and baggage from everything that's come to condition how we think and feel.
Like, and even this conversation is, that's even happening in the conversation, and you feel it. You feel that we're trying to find a way to actually be in the space together, electronic or no, we're grappling. What kind of a body, what kind of training does an Abby Z perform? May say that your performers, what do they need? You mentioned their training, and you actually teach. What do they need to be an Abby Z performer?
Well, I think I think this is a hard question, because I don't want to have a period on on this sentence, that I want it to keep shifting. And I feel like with this current cast, I have a couple dancers who don't have, what my original two sort of like founding members, Jen and Fiona, we have a rapport and a way of moving. And this is something that I teach, which is this sense of rhythm. You need a sense of timing. So
everyone should have the experience to tap or African diasporic forms.
But I think that you can have a sense of timing. I don't know, like comedians have a good comedian would have a good sense of time. Like you need to have intuition. Did you play soccer? One of the dancers played soccer for a long time, and now he does. He's a breaker, and he does a lot of different things. But there's this like, how do you think quick on your feet, and anybody who can sort of like, if you've ever waitressed in a really busy environment, like there's something about being able to oscillate and remember all of the salad dressings that were at table 5 at that 10 top while making things and it's not just a physical thing. It's not purely like you have to come with this physical capacity and ability. There is a sense of weight in the body, yes, to find gravity, and if we're talking, like if I'm talking about my technique class, which, you know, there's when you take dance majors into a program, there's already, you know, this assumption that dancers are coming from, and this is something that is being battled currently and trying to restructure or reorganize or understand our sense of, like, you know, white supremacy in dance curriculums, but that's a whole other story. But this sense of alignment, which is pure safety.
Whoa. All
Yeah,
right. This political thing just came in.
yeah.
So what does white supremacy have to do with your training?
Well, so there's this thing, I would say that a lot of dance programs, we're bringing people in, or have traditionally brought people in coming from modern and ballet backgrounds and prioritizing those forms inside of their curriculum. And there is currently movements inside of many departments to shift that and to expand a sense of, because technique does not purely come from ballet and modern dance forms.
So
Obviously.
expand a sense of, you didn't finish. You said there's a movement to expand a sense of.
Oh, of expand a sense of what technique is, of understanding and truly supporting all of the techniques that exist in the world, and how could we support students that come in with techniques, and not only support them, but how can we help them develop technique that is outside of that conventional dance realm that has historically been ballet and modern dance.
I'd be hard pressed right now, this late in the game, to say what modern dance is, considering we've gone through about almost 200 years of asking questions about form, and ballet used to be the thing everyone beat up on. Ballet represents colonialism. Ballet. So on one level, we could say that what your analysis is decolonization in a way. And I know these are big, heavy terms, but you brought it up, and I think it's very important for people when we're watching your work to know how you're thinking about a bigger conversation in the world.
Of course. And I don't, you know, I don't know if I would say decolonization. Other people would use that word. But there's this sense of undoing the cultural imperialism that exists, bringing in, I mean, I see it and I understand it from my perspective of having existed in Black dance spaces and trained in forms, but also understand it from sort of a little bit of an outside perspective of, like, you see it manifest in terms of class as well. So there's layers and layers of information that's being dealt with. And this is when I had said before that we kind of exist in a mess, and we exist in sort of thankfully, ever shifting, an ever shifting field that ideally we're working towards more equitability and representation among these aesthetics and traditions. I feel like what I teach is like, it's a little bit of like a Rubik's cube that can go this way or that way or that way or that way, in terms of drawing parallels and connecting dots between, like, this is how I explain to my students what we're training in. And again, this is how it comes. Could
you say one more time? What do you say to your students?
That I'm asking them to sort of understand, like, it's a way of being in the body that is adaptable to all of these things that are in that all of these concepts that are in the air, and that have both affected, you know, I'm teaching them a way of being in their bodies.
So there is a philosophy, and I dare say a political point of view. I know you don't like those terms, but that's who I am, and that's how that's what I consider art making is participation in the world of ideas. And therefore there is a philosophy at work, and there is also a political point of view in the work.
And I have to say, I'm not anti-politics. I am hard pressed to utilize terminology that's already in existence to speak to what it is. I guess I tend to go the long way with everything, because oftentimes, and I think that this is, again, the sort of existence in the field and the existence in universities, is like people say the word and they're not doing the thing. So how can I actually do the thing and prove to you that I'm doing the thing, instead of just saying the headline of, dismantling white supremacy? Or do you know what I mean? Like, how can I, because I don't know that I have the answer to the solutions for any, I'm like, there's not one way to move us forward. I'm one of many people in the world that are trying.
I know.
Yeah.
And the only there was something that happened to me years ago. I realized that a lot of what the best art was demonstrating something. It literally was not, it was very difficult to describe it. It was actually the essence of that is being demonstrated. Yeah. That's really a high wire act, because you then must have acolytes. You must have people that come from your school. Unless you have found a way to, Abby Z is now dead. Who knows how to teach, how to convey Abby Z's ideas? Oh, when we were with her, she did this, this, and this. Abby Z thought this, this, and this. It will happen, it happens. So how do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? Well, I think that whoever is quoting me or living on in sort of the philosophies and principles, I hope that they made note of all of the people that I got that information from, because that kind of lineage is super important, because it is not visible in this, like, at first glance, at this like white woman sitting in front of you, you know what I mean, in terms of the spaces that I've trained, and that I also don't know if I need people after I'm gone to be saying my name like that. I don't know. I've not thought about it, Bill. What matters is the work.
I know you haven't. I know it because of where you are. I know because of where you are in your life right now.
Made.
Right. Merce Cunningham used to say in the 1970s, I want it to all stop when I die. Something began to change in the 80s. Some people say it was his board. People were thinking, well, Merce, what is your legacy going to be? How are we going to like disband the company? He was a different person in the 1970s. Sounds very much like you. I'm not concerned with what happens, to what happened in those last years of his life. And I just it's a perverse thing to do with a working artist who is, I dare say, you're much younger than I am. And I think it's exciting, but I think I'm looking forward to seeing how you deal with this radioactive practice in time. We probably should stop right now, but I want
what did we even talk about?
Pardon?
I don't even know what we talked about.
Well, we talked and you demonstrated.
Yeah. There's this, I do have to say that I'm not in my work. And there's a politics and there's a reason for that as well. I mean, and there's a way that I have distance, and I want to encourage anyone who's ever worked with me. Again, I feel like I'm a lightning rod for all of this, all of this cultural, socio-political information and these people that I've learned from, and it comes out in the work, and the people that work with me, I want them to go off and make of it what they will, with paying respect to again, these lineages of dance and philosophy, because they're not separate, that have come to inform why we've been working this way from the beginning. So I think like me having that distance is a little different than Cunningham.
It's less than you might think. It's less than you might think. What I think is going to be interesting is how you're organizing your art life. Who is managing it? How is it being funded? What about the legacy of it? What about the legacy we're talking about? And are you a repertory company?
No, I mean, and Bill, this is my legacy. I was begging to get a showing at Judson not so long ago. So it's like, it's been all at once. I feel like I can't put the cart before the horse. I'm trying to be in the moment and trying to understand really what is being demonstrated in real time at this point. Because I feel like I'm still very much, although I think I have been described as a mid-career artist, it took me a long time to get any sort of, it's all happening at once. It's not little by little. It's because I'm not a performer, and I'm not coming from a school or like connections, or I don't know. There's something that my arrival, I'm still arriving. So talking about the end and moving forward, it's like right now we're starting to, okay, what is the structure? What is the organization? Where is the funding coming from? Like this is,
so you are beginning to think about those things.
Yeah. And I have to say it's because the current manager is one of our longtime dancers, Fiona Lundy. And it is really important that she be supported, and I'm supported and compensated for her dedication. And not just her, but like everybody that is inside of the work. I don't know. Is there a future of dance? Before people started performing again, what did we all think? I mean, did we think it was over? Did we think it would come back at all?
Yeah. Is that a real question? Is there a future?
Yeah. I mean, what is the future of dance?
Well, I think you are making it, right? Because there is definitely a future of dance. People want to move. People want to be with moving bodies. They want to see people moving. I think that I'm sorry, we only have a half an hour. Yeah. We've gone over already. You're very provocative on every level. The work you make is provocative. And it's like watching a flame burning. When I talk to you or I observe you, something elemental is transpiring. And therefore, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you at New York Live Arts with Radioactive Practice. This conversation does not end in any way. Yeah. I am a fan, and I'm full of respect for you. And we look forward to having you. And thank you very much for the conversation.
Phil, thank you so much. Thank you, New York Live Arts. Thank you, and Janet, for just, it's been brutal times trying to figure out how to move forward. So continuing to support us and coming back after so many reschedules has been just, I can't thank you all enough. And the fact that I'm having a conversation with you, and you're, I feel like you like antagonizing me. I saw a little smile on your face as you were doing it.
Well, no, but you misunderstand it, because you didn't understand when I watched your performance in the studio. I was sitting with some people and I was like laughing and enjoying it. And you were a bit offended. You said, why were you laughing? I said, what else am I fucking supposed to do? And people are doing these outlandish things. And I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm laughing at the fear. I'm laughing at your audaciousness. That's how my heart comes out. So I am a serious dude. Yeah. I'm a very serious dude, but I'm also a very human dude, right? Yeah. So until we meet again, my dear friend, Abby Z, love and continued success. Bye-bye now.
Bye.